Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Kelly Teal with Channel Futures, and I am joined by Steve Whittle, and he is the Senior Director of Platform Adoption responsible for channel operations at Olive. Thanks so much for being here, Steve.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Let's go into some broad context before we start talking about Olive itself. Tell me why healthcare is a big opportunity for the channel and why healthcare providers are struggling.
Sure. So, I mean, it's no surprise that the healthcare industry is under stress, at least over the last couple of years. But this has actually been going on for a long time. And it's really within the healthcare industry, there's a lot of places where people just have to do manual work all the time. Some of it's tedious, error prone, et cetera. And the tools that people have, there's a lot of really big expensive tools like healthcare record systems and things like that, which everyone has pretty much deployed, but you still see organizations, for example, using Excel for various things. And so that kind of speaks to the fact that there are gaps in these systems. There are places where they don't work as well as maybe people want them to. And that's leading to a lot of extra effort, a lot of burnout, a lot of mistakes happening, and obviously in healthcare, mistakes can have pretty serious consequences.
Absolutely. That leads really well into the next question, and that is what opportunities, and I think unique opportunities, do MSPs have with healthcare organizations?
Yeah, sure. I think they're in a great place because the managed service providers are the trusted advisor when it comes to technology for these organizations. So they have the ability to have these conversations with healthcare providers from that position and to be able to look at the struggles that these organizations are having and being able to offer to help and bringing in whatever mechanisms may be needed. Could be something as straightforward as a different email system or security or some sort of better infrastructure. But where I think a really unique opportunity is for these managed service providers to help improve the care that these providers are providing or these organizations are providing. So not so much providing the direct care, but making it easier for these organizations to provide care, and these MSPs can then be more embedded and more involved with these organizations.
How do they do that? Talk about Olive Helps and what it is and what it does for MSPs.
Sure. So Olive Helps is a desktop assistant that has a built-in app store. So think of something analogous to like the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. So when this is a tool or an assistant that the healthcare worker can use to help to automate those daily tasks. Now, these could be things that they do today that are just much more manual than they really need to be. So something like having to use old-fashioned paper manuals to look up medical codes, or having to go out and essentially use Google to find references to other specialists that they may need to refer someone to. Or it could even be cases where there really is no technology solution, such as knowing when for a particular procedure that the doctor wants to do, what do they need to do to justify that care to the health insurance company so that they ultimately get paid for it. For example, today, a lot of that is done by people picking up the phone and calling on a case-by-case basis, keeping binders that run rapidly out of date. And with Olive Helps, there are applications that will help with that. And there's a large library of applications that are there today. There's new ones being added all the time, and it is an open platform. So the majority of these applications, for example, are built by Olive partners. But anybody really, even a person in their garage can become an Olive Helps developer and build applications to provide to the healthcare organizations at large.
That's interesting. Talk about how MSPs can actually increase their revenue by doing this and working with Olive.
Sure. So there's maybe the less tangible ways of just being more embedded and more more vital to these organization. So becoming, stickier, for example, having a competitive differentiator because you as an MSP are able to help these organizations improve the care that they're delivering. But also because, as I mentioned, the App Store, there are free applications and there are paid for applications. And the managed service providers working with Olive, when they essentially resell an application built by somebody else, they get part of that revenue. And this is a recurring revenue stream. If they choose to build their own apps, then, just like with the Apple App Store, they get the vast majority of the revenue, and that could be sold to thousands of other healthcare organizations potentially, and bring in a fairly substantial revenue stream that way.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I understand Olive is going to be at the Channel Partners Conference and Expo for the first time in April of 2022. So what brings you to the event, and what do you hope to talk about and accomplish with MSPs?
So I'm a big believer in just meeting people face to face. And I think that's going to give us a great opportunity to do that. And I find that just being able to have those conversations live, it's much easier to understand not only what we can deliver, but also to make sure that any new opportunities or new problems that can be solved, it's much easier to identify those in a venue like that, where you have the right audience of the managed service providers who are the ones who are ultimately need to be involved in this.
Absolutely. And that face-to-face is irreplaceable, as we discovered during COVID. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm Kelly Teal with Channel Futures. This is Steve Whittle with Olive. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.